Welcome back, everybody, to American Sports Broadcasters. My name is Brian Kirkerback with Kenyon Hood. We're back for another week. We're really happy with everybody watching. We're continuing to want more views, more subscribers. We are planning on doing our first college game day type deal.
Mostly Nebraska game.
Yes,
Nebraska
it's the first home game for the Nebraska Cornhuskers against Fresno State. And we'll get to more of that later, but we are going to do a pregame coverage of that game, so definitely look for that. And if you're on UNL's campus, come find us, and we'll sit down and chat with you. We're going to talk a little bit about the NFL, a little bit about Tim Tebow and MLB, and some college football.
Right. So basically, I have been looking forward to this video since really the draft because we're finally back to the NFL. We're finally gonna. Next week is going to be when the games start up. So we got a little preseason, what to look for here today. And man, I'm just so excited to get back to football. It's great.
Definitely. So let's go ahead and start in the NFL. Kenny, if you want to go ahead and start.
Okay, I guess the biggest news, and this broke outside of just sports news, so you've probably already heard about it, is the Colin Kaepernick protest, and that he sat down during the national anthem. He wouldn't stand up because he says that he feels like it doesn't the American flag doesn't represent freedom for minority groups. But he also said that it's not disrespectful to the military. It's not what it's about. And so, really, Brian, I think we can debate this till the sun goes down. So let's keep this one kind of short.
Right. Yeah, and I will keep it short. But something I do want to say about this, Colin Kaepernick can say that what he is fighting for, and that's fine. He has the right to stand for the national anthem or sit. But then we see today that he is at practice wearing socks that are derogatory towards police officers. This is also the same quarterback who was fined tens of thousands of dollars for using the N-word on the field. My problem is for somebody who says that he's so worried about oppression, he definitely is a hypocrite of that. He needs to, I don't think this was the right time to do it. Even an ESPN analyst said this, and I totally agree. I believe the reason he's doing this is because he needed some attention to be back on him. This is a quarterback who has been out of the limelight. Really, this was like the first preseason game that he played. That's why anybody noticed. And the fact of the matter is, I feel the 49ers will cut him. He really screwed up. He's not a good enough quarterback for a team to take on this kind of controversy. And I think he definitely made the wrong choice in dealing with his feelings. He has the right to have those feelings. He does have the right to sit, but I felt like he chose the wrong time to do it.
Well, I doubt that they're going to cut him because I don't know who else they got to play quarterback for him. But we'll move on from that one now pretty quick. Just here to report it, not weigh in a whole lot. A little bit. That's our job, but not too much. Big injuries. Teddy Bridgewater is likely out for the season. Vikings quarterback. You probably already know this. I think I've said it only 1,000 times before. I'm a Detroit Lions fan, and when I heard this, I was so upset, and I'm a division rival. I love Teddy Bridgewater. To me, he's the quarterback that I would want on my team. He can run. He can throw the ball pretty well. His one area that they said he needed to work on was his deep throw accuracy. He really had gotten that down this offseason, and at 7-on-7 drills, non-contact, he just plants his foot wrong, just destroys his knee. They cut practice short. They had only gotten about 25 minutes into practice that day, and then they canceled it, and just devastating and totally reshapes the NFC North, I think.
Right, and Teddy Bridgewater's that kind of guy. He's a very likable guy. There's nothing really not to like about him as a person. You may not, like his team that he plays for or whatever. But yes, this is very sad news. I don't know how I felt the Vikings were going to do this year, but this definitely, I think, destroyed their season. It's time for the Vikings to look for a young replacement.
Well, Teddy is the young replacement.
Well,
this is his third year.
I know, but they need to look for somebody because unfortunately, before this injury, Teddy Bridgewater was having some issues with his shoulder, some soreness there. nothing to worry too much about. But he has been having some injuries, so I feel like hopefully he'll be back next season for him. But I think they need to have a plan B in case he continues this injury bug.
Well, it seems like the Vikings just can't catch a break because they've had quarterback issues for years, going back to, they had Favre, and then they had McNabb, and then Ponder, and then they got Bridgewater, and it seemed like, okay, well, his first year was a little rocky, but, he was a rookie, so it's to be expected. And then you had the whole thing with Adrian Peterson missing out on a year, and so, their offense was really lacking. And then last year, they finally had Adrian Peterson and Teddy Bridgewater with a year under his belt together, and their offense really started to take off. Mike Zimmer did a great job with that team in general, and they ended up winning the NFC North division. And now this year they don't have a quarterback again. So really just heartbreaking for them. And I guess now we'll move on to another quarterback injury, and that's Tony Romo again. Tony Romo broke another bone in his back. Some people say he'll be back week 1. Some say week 3. He played with a broken bone in his back last year, obviously not too well. But when he's healthy and really truly healthy, he is a very good quarterback. And yeah, shake your head all you want, Brian.
I have to step in and disagree with you. Personally, if the Cowboys ever, and I mean ever, want to be good, they need to get rid of Tony Romo. First of all, the guy, it should tell you something if you get injured this early that you need to retire or something. The fact of the matter is, if the Cowboys want to be successful, they got to let Tony Romo go. If he's back game 3, hopefully their backup can prove himself and be able to play. Cowboys need their time, but until Tony Romo is gone, they will not have that time. Now, I am not supporting him being injured. That's not what I'm saying. The fact of the matter is this gives the Cowboys the chance, though, to see that, hey, we need to look past Tony Romo. But that's my personal opinion, and we'll see how it fares for them this year.
All right. So that's all I got for personnel and kind of news here in the early going. And so now we're going to break it down by team. Let's start it in, the blue collar town of Detroit. I don't see why not. This is a team that, is really flying under the radar. A lot of people are kind of counting them out, but really look at what they did. They lost Calvin Johnson. They signed Marvin Jones, who's become quickly one of Matt Stafford's favorite receivers. They signed Andrew Corliss, the former Green Bay Packer. He has now seen the light and joined the Detroit Lions, but he does have to serve a 4-game suspension for firing a gun on a beach in Miami. So well done, Corliss. Brilliant, but after 4 games, I'll be happy to have you. They signed the veteran receiver Anquan Boldin, and he's, I think, 36, but he's shown he's still got talent. They've got a revamped offensive line. No other team in the league is coming anywhere close to putting all the draft stock that the Lions have on their offensive line. They have 3 first-round picks and 2 third-round picks on their O-line, and all those guys were drafted during or after the 2012 season. Last year, their defense was still kind of taking shape after losing Sue, and now second half of last year, I think they really did that. They started to really close down on the run. Their secondary, several key components showed up. Darius Slay, Nevin Lawson looks pretty good. Quandre Diggs looks pretty good. We're going to get a bunch of injured players back, namely DeAndre Levy, who in 2014 many considered to be the best outside linebacker in the NFL, and it's just all going to be taking shape. The one thing that they need to work on is, first of all, just running the ball in general. They haven't had a good running game in years. But secondly, so far in the preseason, the first team offense has had 9 possessions, and they haven't scored a touchdown yet due to turnovers and penalties and things of that nature. So that's what they need to do, is they need to finish off drives. I think come week 1, I think they'll be able to do that, and I think they're going to make a run for it.
I don't have much to say about Detroit, but the only thing I do have to say, this is another team I feel you want success, you got to get a new quarterback.
No.
You got to get a new quarterback. Matthew Stafford is holding this team back. He has his good days, but he makes a lot of mistakes. The only way they become successful, they got the pieces, but they need a new quarterback.
I'm gonna ask you how much film you've watched of the Detroit Lions, because Matt Stafford controls that offense, especially now with Jim Bob Cooter coming in. When he took over halfway through last year, quickly became one of the best quarterbacks in the league, had the best passer rating, one of the best touchdown interceptions ratio. I think it was 19-2. I think something like 67% completion rating, again, highest in the NFL. He went off, and now he's working with the same guy again this year, whole off season to get it together, and they're going to be a team to watch.
I guess it'll be something we have to see once again to see who's right. All right, so the first team that I'll cover is the AFC East, and I'm going to cover the Pats. Big thing here is Tom Brady's 4-game regular season suspension. He will be starting in the last preseason game for them, which, my personal opinion, we're not going to go too much into this, but if you have a regular season suspension, your preseason should be suspended too. But the NFL doesn't make much sense. So anyway, but Tom Brady, his 4-game suspension, this includes he cannot attend or watch practice, he can't appear at team facilities, he cannot have contact with any team personnel, cannot engage in any team football-related activities or discussions, go to the stadium as a spectator, travel to road games, or attend news conferences. The games that the Patriots have without Tom Brady is at Arizona, their first game, and then all 3 next games are home games against Miami, Houston, and Buffalo. And the thing I see here, I think these first 4 games are going to be a true test of, does the Patriots have all the pieces without Tom Brady there? Could be a little rough on some of these games for them. And I guess during this 4-game suspension, Tom Brady will return to Michigan on September 17th, his alma mater, to be an honorary captain during their game versus Colorado. If I am Michigan, I do not allow him to come back, but that's my personal opinion. I am not Jim Harbaugh, so I don't get to make the decisions.
Well, Harbaugh himself might not even be able to make that decision.
He actually did make the decision and said that he was okay with it and that he is ready to have Tom Brady there. But yeah, these first 4 games are going to be crucial for the Patriots. Today came out that ESPN gave them the best percentage chance to win the Super Bowl. We'll talk about it more later, but I don't think that's going to happen. But for Patriot fans, these first 4 games are going to be very crucial.
Right. I bet they lose those first 4 games. For sure, at least that first game in Arizona. Nobody really knows what they have in a backup quarterback, though. I think Tom Brady has missed 1 game since his first start, however many years ago, and so it is a huge question mark. Nobody really knows what they're going to have, but I'm just betting that they lose at least 3 of those games and probably all 4. They might be able to pull off some kind of magic on one of them, but yeah, I don't like the look of the Patriots this year.
All right. So your next team?
My next team is going to be the Carolina Panthers. And basically, I started off my notes in here, all capital letters, Cam Newton. Okay, this guy is the key to that team. We saw he got kind of flustered in the Super Bowl against the Broncos. He was under a lot of pressure, pretty much just the whole game. He couldn't get a good throw off. He needs to get back to being able to scramble around, throw on the run, do some bootlegs, do some options, really play to his strengths, and his strengths are his legs. But even more, what's awesome about Cam Newton is it's not just his legs that he's good at. He has a tremendous arm, and I saw him one time. He jumped and threw it 30 yards. So Cam Newton is just the key to that offense. But besides him, they can run the ball really well just in general. They have a good power team. They have solid receivers, and I think they're going to be solid. In addition to that, they have a strong defense, specifically with Kuechly. I still can't pronounce this guy's name. Um, they did lose Josh Norman, who has become famous for his, fights with OBJ, and so we'll see, how their defense does, but I think it'll be pretty good still, and I guess that takes us to your team.
Well, before I get to my team, my only thing I have to say on that, I don't think the Panthers will have the same sort of success that they did last year.
No, they're not going to go 15-1 this year.
Right, but I think Cam Newton can be their greatest weapon, and he can be their biggest hindrance. He's got a really, really big ego, and we saw how when it got bruised in the Super Bowl, he went off and pouted. We talked about this.
We did talk about this. So I'm not gonna say anything.
But yeah,
it's hard for me.
But I do feel that now teams know how to battle Cam Newton, and if they can get pressure on him,
that's how you battle any quarterback, is by putting pressure on him.
Right, but it seemed like it was something that no team could figure out until the Broncos did.
That's because no team had players like the Broncos had. Von Miller, DeMarcus Ware, all those guys, just great outside rushers, and I think their offensive line just couldn't handle it. But it's not a look that necessarily a lot of teams really give in this league. You see more 4-3, and the Broncos ran more of a 3-4 with those outside linebackers standing up on the side.
Yeah. So definitely something to watch for, but that's my just personal take on it. So the next team I covered, because they also got a lot of news, as did the Patriots. In the AFC North, we look at the Cleveland Browns. Obviously, they had the Manziel controversy with him continuing to party and getting all this kind of trouble.
Was it a controversy, though? I mean,
call it what you want. But yeah, with all the parties and how he couldn't stop, and so that was a big blow for them. But they did get RG3. This preseason, they're 0-3. And I mean, if you look at it, they are averaging 12.3 points per game, which is 29th in the league. They have the fewest offensive plays at 146. They're averaging 223 yards per game, and that's 31st in the league. They're averaging 4.6 yards per game, which is 25th. Now, you would think, 4.6, that's not terrible. That's not. Well, when you look at it, the only reason they have that is because 215 of the total 669 yards came from four players: RG3, Terrell Pryor, Josh Gordon, and Gary Barnidge. So 32% of their yards came from 3% of their offense.
Well, no, but you have to keep in mind, too, with the preseason, a lot of times that first team is only in there for a drive or two because they want to not get injuries and they want to evaluate the guys who are going to be lower on the roster because, for most of the preseason, you got a roster of 90 guys. You have to make that cut down to 53 by week one. And so, there's a lot of these numbers, and they just don't mean necessarily a whole lot. Like you can kind of get a feel for what they're doing, but you can't really extrapolate what their regular season is going to be.
But I think what these numbers show is the depth is not there for this team.
The depth probably is not there.
And so I mean this is something that definitely, I mean, after the whole Manziel thing, not that Manziel gave them great hope.
He wasn't really that good for them anyway.
But this definitely hurt them because there was so much attention on this. RG3, he's a good quarterback and all, but I don't think, he's not great. And so definitely going to be a very disappointing season for the Browns.
I think RG3 is going to, shake things up a little bit. Got in trouble with mostly the media. I don't remember if it was last year or 2 years ago for wearing a Kristen t-shirt during a broadcast, obvious. So if just going based off that, I don't know him personally, but not really the partier and property damage of Manziel. And, if he manages to stay healthy, because that was really his problem with the Redskins, that he just couldn't stay healthy. And so if he can stay healthy, I think I don't think they'll do super great this year, but I think they'll have something to build off of in years to come.
I would agree with that. So it looks like it's on to your next.
Okay, my next team to watch is going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. For me personally, even before we've been doing this show, I've been telling people to watch out for the Bucks. Um, they have actually a fairly tough schedule this year, so it's going to be a little hard for them. But they've got good receivers. They got Vincent Jackson, Mike Evans, and former Husker Kenny Bell, who is a blocking wizard. Um, if you haven't seen the video of him in the Wisconsin Big Ten National Championship, watch that. It's hilarious and what blocking should be. And I get told this every time, and I'm not going to change. I pronounce his name wrong, but I make no apologies. Jameis Winston is going to have a big year. He's really going to develop, I think. And he's got a great running back in Doug Martin to throw off those defenses. He is just a beast. And then on defense, they have another former Husker of Levante David, and he is the cornerstone for this defense. Even before they had a defense, he was the defense, and he would make, it seemed, almost every single play. Um, just a phenomenal linebacker, hard hitter, good run stopper, good cover man. He can do it all. And then on the defensive line, they got Gerald McCoy, who's a pretty good pass rusher. I think pretty sure he had double-digit sacks last year. So they should be pretty good on defense, but really watch for that offense to take off.
Definitely, and really the only thing I gotta say, I agree with you. Definitely team to watch. Um, I think that they finally put the pieces in place that they needed. They just got to make sure that Jameis Winston stays out of any controversies that seem to follow him when he was in college. Just make sure that he stays away from those, and they'll be just fine. But I think they got the crucial pieces that they needed. So next team to look for is from the AFC South, and that is the Texans. They're 3-0 this preseason, but one of the big things for me for this team is Coach Bill O'Brien. And the reason I love this guy is when he went to Penn State and all that was, going off. But you know what? He kept pride in that team. He kept those players with pride, and he is an amazing leader. And so very good for this team. The other thing I'm very excited about the Texans for is Brock Osweiler.
Osweiler.
Yes. When Peyton was hurt in Denver, he came out strong. A lot of people didn't know much about him, and he had been there, but he didn't really play much. I mean, he came out big, and now the Texans have him, and I think this is very important for them. I mean, and Coach O'Brien did say that he feels like Osweiler has control of that offense and understands that offense. And I mean, I would hope so with a 4-year, $72 million deal. I would hope so that he's got control of this. But in 2015, only playing 8 games, he had 1,967 yards and 10 touchdowns. Played very well. And so I think he'll do very good for the Texans. Texans are definitely a team to watch for.
Yeah, I think it's a good pickup by them. Last year in the playoff game against the Chiefs, I honestly don't even remember that quarterback's name, but he just fell apart under the pressure. And I'm not talking about the pressure from the defensive line. I'm just talking about the pressure of the game situation, and he just couldn't handle it. And I think Osweiler has kind of been and a team that he's been on a team that's won a Super Bowl. I think he kind of knows that has that championship mentality. But I will also say that we have a very small sample size of Brock Osweiler. Like you said, Brian only played 8 games, and yes, he played well. But you also have to remember that the other teams hadn't had really much of a chance to scout him yet. You have a small sample size, so now that film is out there, so people might have something now to break him up, and so he could still be really good. He might. My guess is he's not going to be as good as they hope, but Texans I think should still be pretty good. I mean, they have J.J. Watt, so how could they not be good? My next team to talk about is going to be the Arizona Cardinals. First off, got to talk about their veteran receivers. Larry Fitzgerald has been one of the best receivers in the league for several years now. They got Michael Floyd. Running backs, their first running back, I don't really know much about this guy, but David Johnson. And what I do know is that he's ahead of Chris Johnson. And what I know about Chris Johnson is that he has the fastest ever recorded 40-yard dash time, at least in the combine. and anybody who can beat him out has to be probably pretty good. So watch out for their running game. Also, quarterback Carson Palmer is the leader of this team. He's up there. He's really kind of a quiet guy, but he's in command. And several times last year, you'd see them just march methodically down the field and cap it off with a strong touchdown. And they're going to do that again next year, and probably for as long as he's there at least. And then they also have a good, tough defense behind them. So I think the Arizona Cardinals are going to show up this year.
I'd have to agree with you. I would have to say a big piece, like you said, is Carson Palmer for them. So definitely a team to watch out for. So the last team that I'm going to really highlight is from the AFC West, the Broncos. With the retirement of Peyton Manning, and there were a lot of questions, especially when Osweiler left. Who's going to be the quarterback? And they're coming out with a pretty inexperienced quarterback. We don't know much about him. Trevor Siemian. So the thing is it's going to be a real test for the Broncos and, on the offensive side, but their defense is still going to be strong. But I think the bigger story out of the Broncos is how the number 2 quarterback spot is up for grabs. It's either between the rookie from Memphis, Lynch, or my personal opinion, one of the biggest joke quarterbacks left in the NFL, Mark Sanchez. He hasn't done a butt fumble yet this year, but it's probably going to happen because the Broncos are going to fumble him off the roster. I don't think there's any competition. Lynch will beat out Sanchez, and that's got to be a blow to Sanchez for a rookie to beat you out when you looked at Denver as your basically new start and you weren't named the starter. But I think the Broncos will be very successful this year. Because of that defensive strength. We don't know exactly how their offense is going to look with this relatively young, inexperienced quarterback, but I think the defense holds this team together.
Right. So Siemian last year, he had one play, and that was a kneel down before halftime. His official NFL stat line says 1 rush for -1 yards. But 2 years ago now, I guess, he was a 7th round pick. And, I can think of another 7th round pick who did very well, and that is Tom Brady. And, say what you want about him personally and Deflategate and all that, but you can't argue that he is probably one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time still. And I'm not saying that Siemian is a Tom Brady. Nobody knows. We haven't seen him yet, but should be an interesting thing to watch there. I actually have kind of 2 teams left to talk about. So we'll start off with the Seattle Seahawks. Marshawn Lynch retired, but even without him, he was hurt a lot last year, and they still did a pretty good job rushing. They signed a guy off the practice squad who came in and performed really well for them. They still have the key pieces on the Legion of Boom. They got Cam Chancellor, Earl Thomas, Richard Sherman. All those guys are going to be back, and they're going to keep bringing the heat. Russell Wilson is still the fantastic quarterback that he is. He's got the same talented receivers that he's had for a long time. And at home, obviously they got the 12th man behind them in the audience, and we're just in an era where the Seahawks are always going to be a team to watch, and so watch out for them. Did you have anything to say about the?
Really, the only thing is, crucial for that team is Russell Wilson. If he's playing good, the team's doing good. For me, there's not much else to say about them. They'll be successful as long as Russell Wilson is successful. So definitely, just watch for him.
All right, and the next team that I'm going to talk about, and the last team that I'm really going to go in depth with, is the Kansas City Chiefs. They have really some good guys on defense. They got Tamba Hali, Eric Berry. If you don't know Eric Berry's story, I'm not going to get too far into it, but basically he was battling, I believe it was leukemia, and then was still playing through that, and was not just playing, but playing really well, and was one of the best defenders that in the league, even with all that. So just props to that guy, and I think he's still really good, and they're going to do a lockdown job on defense, I think, again. On offense, they're going to have Jamal Charles coming back. They lost him pretty early last year, And so he is a weapon and a really big weapon that they're going to have. Travis Kelce, their tight end, he really stepped up last year, had a really good year. And Alex Smith just looks better and better in this Chief offense every single year. Um, one of the two key stats to look at for the Chiefs last year, they had 127 rushing yards per game, so they could control that clock management. They could control the flow of the game, do what they wanted to do to a defense. But almost more importantly, they were plus 14 in the turnover ratio and the turnover margin. So obviously, it's fantastic to not have turnovers. Turnovers lose ball games basically, and to not have any of that, but actually be positive. I think the Chiefs are going to be a team to watch, and I actually have them picked to win the AFC West.
This is something that, with us being very close to Kansas City, these are what a lot of these Chief fans, a team like this, they've been waiting for. They're waiting for a team that's finally got some pieces that they can put together to hopefully make a big run. And they're getting closer and closer every year with this team they've put together. So as long as everybody can stay healthy and play really tough, definitely a team to really watch for this year. So I think now we're going to go ahead and make our picks for each division, talk about sleeper teams and teams to really watch for.
All right, so as I said, AFC West, I got the Chiefs.
AFC West, I have the Broncos, but definitely watch for the Chiefs. But I feel just that Bronco defense is going to really pass them through everybody else.
All right, and then the AFC East, I picked the New York Jets. I think they really put together a solid team last year and made it into the playoffs. And I don't expect them to have a whole lot more success than they did last year, but I think Ryan Fitzgerald is going to come out. They lost Chris Ivory to Jacksonville, and so he's a key part of their rushing game. But I think that still watch for the Jets. I think the Jets are going to find a way to pull out the East.
As much as I hate to say this, I have the Patriots winning the East. I say watch for the Bills. I just don't feel like this is going to be a strong division. Those first 4 games, we talked about without Tom Brady, maybe he'll be pre-deflating balls through his 4-game suspension. So who knows? But I just feel like somehow they'll find a way to win some of those games and be able to win the division.
All right, AFC North. Despite the playoff debacle last year, I'm going to pick the Cincinnati Bengals. I think Andy Dalton comes out and, without a broken thumb, obviously, and he lit the field up last year. I think he's going to keep doing it. And I think that the team kind of has something to prove after that last game. It was not a pretty game. And not just in the scoreline, they played actually pretty dirty. There were some cheap shots. And I think they're gonna wise up and kind of step away from that and just really crack down and get back to business.
I also have the Bengals. Definitely, always watch for the Steelers. And the
Ravens. The Steelers are fantastic with Antonio Brown.
Yeah, but I think everybody's starting to realize that I'm really big into the quarterbacks, and I feel like the quarterbacks are essential parts of teams. So I normally make my picks based on a quarterback, and I love Andy Dalton. Absolutely love the guy.
The Red Rifle.
He's great. Has really turned this team around. So yes, Bengals win the AFC.
AFC South, I have the Houston Texans. Like we talked about, Brock Osweiler. I think he'll be solid. I don't think he'll be as good as they said that as I think he'll be. I think he'll be solid. I think he'll be good enough. And J.J. Watt on defense. Just J.J. I don't know what even you can say.
Exactly. I also have the Texans. Once again, this is a quarterback decision for me. Brock Osweiler. Love the guy. And as I said before, I really like Bill O'Brien. Other teams to watch for: the Colts with Andrew Luck, and the Titans with Marcus Mariota. I'm a quarterback guy. He's developing still. I'm not.
But you need a team around a quarterback.
They
have Mariota, but what else do they have?
Right. But sometimes that quarterback can bring the best out of players who maybe never were the best.
Sometimes they can, but do you think a second-year player who was out for half the year last year with a knee injury is going to be that guy? In a culture of a losing team and a losing franchise.
If he stays healthy, we saw this a couple years back where they weren't doing so hot. Then Vince Young came in and really turned that team around until he had a little mental breakdown. But I mean, we've seen it before happen with the Titans and quarterbacks. So just a team to watch for. I'm not gonna, as I said, the Texans will win the South, but just a team to keep an eye on. Is all I'm saying.
I think you judge your quarterbacks too much. I'm just gonna say that. NFC North, my Detroit Lions are gonna win it, and for real though, no, they are. The Packers are really overrated. Without Aaron Rodgers, really, they're screwed. Without even Jordy Nelson last year, they were screwed. Really, they're a team that you take out one or two guys and they have next to nothing. And I think that that's not going to be good enough to win this year. And, maybe they'll buy off some more refs. I'm still not over this Thursday night football game. Never will be. Hashtag not a face mask.
All right.
That's all I'll say.
So I say we step off the bias train and
Well,
really look at what's actually going to happen.
I called you out on Texas last week.
I understand. So
I'm
just, I'm going to call you out. We're going to actually step into reality. The Packers will win the North. Another team to watch for the Bears. As I said before, Detroit cannot be successful with Matthew Stafford. Now, if he comes out this year and proves me wrong, great. But the Packers, they're just a team that has the defense and seems to always have the pieces. Packers win the North.
My insides are burning with hatred for everything that just came out of your mouth. First of all, the Bears suck. As they have Jay Cutler, they released Matt Forte, they lost Alshon Jeffries, and they're not good. I don't really know what else to say.
The reason I'm saying
reason
I'm saying watch them, there seems to be some magic in Chicago. Watch them. You know what? The same thing. The Bears never be completely successful without Jay Cutler. As you can see, I love quarterbacks, but I also like to pick on them. So just watch the Bears because there's some magic in Chicago. But I think we should move on to the next division.
Okay, fair enough. NFC South. I'm picking the Carolina Panthers. I am going to do this almost solely based on quarterback, but the team around him as well proved that they are good. You can't get to the Super Bowl with a quarterback alone, though the Broncos proved that you can do it kind of without one. And I think Panthers, again, they're not going to have a 15-1 season, I don't think, but I think they are still going to win the division.
I gotta disagree with you again. In the NFC South, I have the Bucs winning the division. Watch for the Saints and the Panthers. Like I said, I feel like for Cam Newton, that Super Bowl is just it's gonna be something that hangs over his head, and I think it's gonna distract his play a little bit. I will say it's a good team all around, but I think the Bucs are really putting those pieces together. Jameis Winston coming out with some fire. It's going to be a tough battle between the two, but I think the Bucs just seem to have it. And Panthers, I just think it'll be a little hindrance from just that reminder of how they should have won the Super Bowl and they ended up not.
I think it's not going to do that though. I think the Super Bowl, if anything, is just going to motivate them more to come out and be even better. They're going to try to be better than they were last year, and they're going to try to get to the Super Bowl, and they're going to try to win it and take home that Lombardi Trophy. Buccaneers, I still have them as a sleeper team. Definitely watch out for them. But the Saints, really ever since their whole bounty scandal, they haven't really been a team in contention. Last year, they had a couple of moments. They had a shootout with the Panthers last year, and they seem to always kind of lose these tough games, and I think it'll be kind of more of the same. But that's just me. We'll move on to the next division. The NFC East, I don't think this is a really strong division. It's almost a coin flip, really, I think. None of these teams jump out at me as they're a contender. But I went ahead and picked the New York Giants. I think Eli and Odell, I think, are going to be the guys. I don't know. I'm not super confident in this pick, obviously, but I think that they're the team with the best chance to win it.
I agree with you. This is not a strong division. It's coin flip division, but I have the Redskins. The reason I have the Redskins, Kirk Cousins, they signed him that big deal he wanted, and I think he's definitely gonna be strong for them. Yes, once again I'm going on the quarterback train.
And he did at the last year he started to kind of come together.
Exactly.
But I'm not convinced that their team is really a good team. But to be fair, also I'm not in an NFC or an NFC East market, so we don't get a whole lot of those games out here to really watch all the film.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not liking that division much at all.
Mhm.
NFC West, I think this one's almost a no-brainer, picking the Arizona Cardinals.
I like the Cardinals. Unfortunately, I'm picking Seattle, just because I don't really like Seattle, but you got Russell Wilson.
How many people who aren't bandwagon actually really like Seattle though?
There's not a lot, exactly. But I picked Seattle, Russell Wilson, but the team as a whole is very strong. A team to watch for, and a lot of people are going to laugh at me for this. Watch for the Rams, because a team moving cities, this could give them a jump start. Sometimes when teams move cities, it jumps them. I'm not going to say they're going to be super successful this first year, but just watch them. Just a team to watch for, possibly could be a sleeper. I would love for them to win that division. To say that Seattle didn't win that division. But so yeah, that's my take on the West.
Interesting thing about the Rams, there's been speculation about where they're going to play, and now it's come out they are going to play in the same stadium that they used in the 1932 Olympics, and they have another stadium coming in I think 2019. It's something like $2.6 billion. But I just think it's hilarious that they're playing in a stadium from 1932.
Yeah.